Hi everyone, my name is Miss Ashley from Fibo Kids Art Academy, and for today's fun art project, we're going to be creating a fun watercolor painting using rubber cement. So let's go ahead and get started with our picture. Now this picture is really simple and easy to do. Kids can do it on their own. However, a parent or guardian may need to help out with a few things here and there. And it requires very few art materials. We definitely do need those watercolors with brushes and water. You do need that paper, whether it's illustration paper or watercolor paper, but you are going to need some rubber cement. So I've got this nice craft bond rubber cement. Now this is where it gets really fun. Even though it's a little bit hard to see, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take our rubber cement, and you can see that it's pretty drippy. And that's the key to this, is to make it super drippy. We're not thinking about really where our lines are going, but if you want to just sit back and watch with me for a little bit, you can go ahead and do so. Now, forewarning, rubber cement is not the best smelling stuff, so if you do need to wear like a face mask of some sort, or just be very, very careful as you're using it because it can smell. And you can apply that rubber cement to your paper however you would like. So you can just take it up like this and just drip it all over your paper like so. You can also get close, and you can even take it, because it is like a paintbrush at the end, and you can spread that glue. Now I'm not really thinking about where I'm applying this glue. I'm just kind of going in certain areas here and there. I can get close and spread some of that glue. There is no right or wrong way to how you apply this glue on your paper. You can do it in big bunches right here. Might be a little bit hard to see on your screen, but I promise that rubber cement is on my paper. And again, you can take that paintbrush and spread that glue. And it is quite stinky though, so be sure not to breathe in too much. You always wear a face mask to prevent yourself from smelling it. I'm just going to go over and just spread some of that glue around, adding some extra in certain places. All right, again, that's what's nice about having the paintbrush at the end. Let's just add a little bit more. And almost done. Just a bit more. You can even write out a message with glue because you do have that paintbrush. You can even make some shapes or symbols. But get creative with how you apply that glue. I find it's easier if it's a little bit on the thicker side. So I'm just going to kind of go back over some of those thinner areas and thicken them up just a bit. And I'll explain why in a short bit. All right. I'm just going over some of those thinner areas. I think we are good. Oh, maybe a few more areas. Let me just tidy up those thinner areas. All right. Now, your glue is wet. You do need for it to be dry, so you can either use a hair dryer or a fan to dry that glue. I'm gonna let my glue dry for a bit, and then I'm gonna come back to those watercolors. So go ahead and just take a moment to gather your art supplies. You can go take a snack break. Just make sure that your glue is dry for our next step. And welcome back. So hopefully by now your picture with the glue on it is dry. So what we're going to do is we're just going to be adding some watercolor onto our picture. Now you can either try your best to stay inside each shape to add that color, or you can just have fun and add splotches of paint wherever your heart desires. So I'm just going to start with my simple turquoise blue, and I am going to just be adding it onto my picture. Now again, you can try your best to stay inside each shape if you'd like, or you can add some colors here and there. Again, there's no right or wrong to how you do this. I'm just going to be adding some color to my picture. And as you can see, the watercolor is not soaking into that glue. Instead, it's just scooting away from it. So you should be able to still have those lines. I really like this purple, so I'm going to add another here, red violet, I should say. But maybe I want to add a little bit of red to that area and just tap it on. All right, and so at this point, you're just adding watercolor to your picture. You can even just brush it right here and add some more different colors. Now, if you wanted to, you could paint your entire thing one color and then wait for it to dry and then go back and add more color. But I like the nice gradient effect that it gives to parts of the picture. So I'm just going to be leaving it like this. I'm not going to wait for it to dry again. I'm just going to add a little bit more. But you can tap, you can brush. That's up to you. So I can do a long brush down here. And then add more colors. And again, you can see that that glue is preventing the watercolor from seeping into there. Just get some green here. You can use as much watercolor as you'd like or little, that's up to you. But I find this very fun, very relaxing. There's no right or wrong to how you do this. You just paint your picture and have fun with it. I'm just going to add some color up here. Maybe I'll get some more orange in this area here. Just make sure that you are cleaning your brush and switching off those colors if you do want it to be nice and neat. But there is no right or wrong to what colors you add to this. All right, I'm just going to add a few more yellow spots. I'm going to add it next to here. Yellow and purple are complementary colors, so we'll have them right next to each other. And it kind of gives this stained glass window effect, which is what I really like. Let me just add a little bit more paint to here. Awesome. Add some more. Even just blotch it on if you wanted to. You can even splatter some paint. But have fun with the colors you choose. If you wanted it to be a little bit more monochrome, that's okay too. If you want it to be super colorful, great. I'm just going to keep adding my color onto my picture. I can go over, add a bit more, add some yellows right here for yellow-green. All right, and again, there's no right or wrong to how you apply that color and where you would like that color. Sometimes I find it's fun to just mix those colors up a bit to see what different colors you do come up with. Now this does work best with watercolor instead of acrylic paint, so make sure you are using watercolor. But you can start to see just this really unique painting starting to form. And again, I can just go back and add colors to different areas. That paint will not stick onto that glue. Get a little bit more. And some more here. And add more paint. It's really fun to just kind of blotch it on there and see what colors start to mix together. I'm going to switch my big brush now. Do some bigger sections too. Just to see what I come up with. But look how pretty this is starting to look. All right, just adding a bit more color here and there. You can also, if you wanted to, splatter salt onto this to make it a little bit more textured. You can also add sugar on top of it. Again, in a previous video, we have one that's about adding salt and sugar to your watercolors for that texture. So if you were to add that onto your picture, you could give it a nice textured effect. All right, I'm going to add some oranges up here. You can tap, you can brush. But still you can see where my glue is on my paper. It is not soaking up that paint. All right, let me just add some yellow green right here. It's really starting to come together. Looks very nice. Do make sure that you share your creations with us. We would love to see if you enjoyed this project, what sort of color scheme you came up with, or what colors you used, how your designs turned out. Definitely let us know either visiting our Facebook Fibo Village page, or you can even tag us on Instagram. Definitely let us know what you came up with, because us teachers at Fibo love to see what all of our creative students come up with. I'm gonna add some green here, and I'll get some blue. And I can get some purples as well. I love to just watch the watercolor spreading. Find it enjoyable. I'm just making sure to try and go over all my areas though, so there are no parts of my paper showing. The only thing that I want white by the end of this is just the glue that's on the paper. Do some yellows here. But look how fun and pretty this is turning out. Doing a great job. All right, I'm gonna add some more colors. You can go thick or thin with that painting. Just the more water and paint you use, the longer it is going to take to dry. So just keep that in mind. But again, there's no right or wrong to how you paint this. If it takes a while for it to dry, that's totally okay. I'm just going to keep adding that paint. Again, if you want to be more precise and just paint one shape at a time with one color, that's okay. If you want to be a little bit more splotchy like I am doing, that's okay too. Just a word of caution though, if you do splotch some of that paint, just remember that complementary colors like red and green, purple and yellow, if they splotch together, they do create brown in the middle. So if you don't want brown on your picture, then try your best not to have complementary colors mixing together. So I have purple and yellow right here, so it might just blend a little bit and create brown, but if it does, that's okay. But that glue should separate it enough. But look how fun and beautiful this is turning out. We'll have to see how it looks once it's completely dry. I'm gonna add some turquoise up here to mix with that green. We'll get some blue up here. But I find it fun to just splotch that paint on. If you have too much paint, you can easily just grab a paper towel and just soak up some of that paint as well. And even just tap in some areas too. And now we've got some fun textures there, but I'm gonna actually get rid of those and add more paint. Look how beautiful this is turning out. Just really make sure that all of your colors are spreading together. The only thing that should be white is your glue from your, or the white lines from your rubber cement. Let's get some yellow green right here. Good job. Doing a wonderful job. All right, I'm gonna get some red violet down here. And I think I'll get some yellow orange. I do like the yellow orange a lot. Look how beautiful this is turning out. However yours looks, it looks amazing. You're doing a great job. Oh, so you can kind of see right here, it's starting to turn a little bit brown because of my blue paint right here. But it's fun to see how all the colors mix together in this way. All right, let's get a little bit more blue. And just make sure that it splotches together. And more red violet. Looking at my picture, it is lacking a little bit of yellow, so I'm going to add a bit more yellow, but again, there's no right or wrong to how you paint this picture. You can have more of your favorite color. You can have just cool colors. Our cool colors are blue, purple, and green. Our warm colors are red, orange, and yellow. All right, I'm going to add some red violet here and some blue. And I can go for some green. Make that yellow green here. And I'm just going to keep adding those colors. But look how beautiful this is turning out. You're doing a marvelous job. Again, always show us on Fibo Village on Facebook or tag us on Instagram. And we'd love to see what you come up with. All right, I am just about done with my picture. I'll definitely have to wait for it to dry before I'm peeling off that tape. I'm just going to add some paint here and here. But look how pretty this is turning out. Love all the colors in this. And again, as I said earlier, you can add texture to it by adding salt to your picture or sugar. That creates some nice grainy looks to it. Or you can just leave it as is. Let's get a little bit more purple down here. And we can also get some blue-green to mix with that. And some turquoise. And I'm just really going over making sure that I don't see any parts of my paper. Again, the only part that I want to see white is the glue. But you can notice up here that it is drying a bit. Right over here it needs to dry a little bit more. You can also, if you want to try and make sure there's no paint on that glue, you can just go over with a paper towel or with a wet wipe and clear off some of that paint on your glue. So I have a wet wipe right here. I can easily just put it on my finger and just kind of brush off any of that watercolor that may have gotten on the glue and is just staying there. So I have a little bit around here and there. So especially right here. But it is best to make sure that your picture is dry before you do that step. I'm just going to go over and touch up on some areas, making sure that it is nice and splotched. Now, if I wanted to, I can also add like some speckle effects. So I'm just going to go over with some red. I can just flick some paint right around here too to create just some more splotches. And I'll add some red violet. That's my favorite color in the watercolor palette. Just kind of drip some Add some textures. And I'm gonna go ahead and wait for this to dry before I show you the finished result. Because again, once it is dry, it will be a lot easier to take off some of that watercolor that is on the glue. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry, and then I'll show you the finished result. All right, so hopefully your picture is just a little bit more dry. Mine's still a little bit wet in some areas, so I'm just gonna be a little bit careful with this next step. So you may have noticed that some of that paint did stay on the glue. Not as bad as it could have been, but I find it's easiest if you get that wet wipe and just have your finger through it, and you can go over each of those parts of the glue to take off some of that paint. You can also use a wet paper towel for this next step. That's up to you. But I find a wet wipe's easiest just because it does have some cleaning parts to it. I'm just gonna go ahead and just take off some of that paint on my glue, just to bring it back a little bit more. Now this step is a lot easier if your picture is completely dry, because if it's not, and you're spreading some wet paint around, it's just gonna stick into your glue. But I'm just gonna go ahead and just take a moment to fix up some of those edges to make them nice and bright. Because we definitely wanna see those lines. Now some of them might just be hiding, and that's fine. But again, this works best when your picture is 100% dry. So you can see that I am bringing back those lines. And you can use a wet wipe or you can use a wet paper towel. That way those swirls just really start to appear. All right. And look how pretty our picture turned out. In this step that I'm doing right now, it is optional. I do like to see a little bit more of the glue lines though, so that's why I'm taking that extra time, just to go over and make sure that everything looks nice and neat. If I want to go back and rewipe it again after my picture is completely dry, I can do that too. Again, hopefully your picture is more dry than mine is, because as you can kind of see right here, if the paint is still wet, it's just going to spread. But I'm just going through and wiping off that extra paint that happened on the glue. All right, that's pretty decent. I can't complain. It turned out pretty well. But if I do end up finding some spots, I can always go back and rewipe it again and again. Because definitely make sure that your picture is completely dry before doing this step. Can't stress that enough. All right, and when your picture's done, you can go ahead and take off that blue tape so you have this really nice border around your picture. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just remove that tape. A nice crisp edge. That step was optional. I do like to tape my picture down onto the table just so it doesn't move around when I'm painting or adding that glue. And if you haven't already, make sure you do clean up your area once you are completely done. But here is, whoops, there is my picture that I created with rubber cement and watercolor. Doesn't that look absolutely beautiful? You all did a very great job on your pictures. Again, if it is still a little bit wet, wait for it to dry. If you do get a lot of paint spots on that glue, just take that moment to go over and wipe off any of that glue. But that's an optional step. You don't have to do that. But that is it for our project for today. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you had a lot of fun. These turned out really beautiful. You should definitely let me see what you created online, whether it's our Fibo Village page on Facebook. You can always tag us on Instagram or Twitter. But we do hope to see you again at Fibo Kids Art Academy. Bye.